Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. After the 2020 election, Time magazine bragged about how a well-funded cabal of powerful people won the election for Joe Biden by controlling the flow of information. Let's look at some of the details of how the information was controlled. According to this October 2020 article in The Atlantic magazine, the FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop since December of 2019. But ahead of the election, the director of the FBI implied to Congress that the laptop was Russian disinformation. And ahead of the 2020 election, Attorney General Bill Barr suppressed information about the laptop because he said he didn't want to interfere with the election outcome. This was the exact opposite of reality because the FBI was actively interfering with the election by implying that the laptop was Russian disinformation. Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook told this to Joe Rogan.
There's a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York Post.
Yeah, we had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. Basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still share it, you could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
it got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely...
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper-political issue, so depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much. But we weren't sort of as black and white about it as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement, if they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it basically fit the pattern.
The FBI was misinforming the public about the laptop. And at the same time, dozens of former intelligence officials were also interfering with the election by saying that the laptop was Russian disinformation, even though it was in the hands of the FBI. The people who interfered with the election included Jim Clapper, former director of National Intelligence, Mike Hayden, former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, Leon Panetta, former director of Central Intelligence Agency, and John Brennan, former director of the Central Intelligence Agency. 79% of respondents in a recent poll say that Donald Trump would have won the election had there been adequate information made available about the laptop. And now Bill Barr, who suppressed the laptop story ahead of the election, says that Joe Biden lied about the laptop. Barr says Joe Biden lied about the laptop, but at the same time, the FBI, under his jurisdiction, was lying about the laptop as well. Joe Biden backed up his lies with the same lies from the intelligence agencies. In 2019, Joe Biden bragged about using taxpayer money to get the Ukrainian prosecutor fired who was investigating the company which gave the Biden family millions of dollars.
And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired.
So how does the press report on this cesspool of corruption in Washington, D.C.? They do what they usually do. They say Trump is Hitler. And Lindsey Graham says Joe Biden is as good a man as God ever created.
If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem. You need to do some self-evaluation, because what's not to like? And he's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics.
Is that right?
He is as good a man as God ever created.
Toto is happy that he lives in Wyoming, the most Republican state, and thousands of miles away from Washington, D.C. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki and Upla on the web at realclimatescience.com.